Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Star Tycoon. Now, this isn't going to be a huge in-depth video. This is going to be a broad overview that should give you enough information to actually start playing the game once it actually releases. The game successfully funded on Kickstarter last year, and the Kickstarter copy should be arriving to people in the United States in late April. I'm anxiously awaiting my copy. This is a game that I've been covering throughout this year and last year, and even developed my own solo mode for it, even though there's a solo mode inherently in the rulebook. So anyway, Star Tycoon, what is this game all about? In Star Tycoon, you are tasked with transforming a startup business into an interstellar mega corporation. During the game, you'll expand your corporation to new worlds, developing them to meet specific planetary targets and maximize profits. The galactic market is the hub for all competing businesses to trade resources. Knowing when to buy and when to sell is critical for gaining a competitive edge. The winner is the corporation with the most points at the end of round 4. Speaking of victory points, there are a number of different ways that you can earn them. They may not make a whole lot of sense to you right now, but here's a quick overview of it. You can gain victory points by claiming sets of planets as outlined on your company card, achieving production supremacy as outlined on your home world, building the specified combination of target developments on planets you purchase, building developments with bonus points, forming partnerships with brands, and scoring endgame bonus points. Like I said, a lot of that's going to be gobbledygook to you until you actually learn how the game is played and what all the different components are and stuff like that. Speaking of components, my hard copy is not here yet, so what you're seeing is everything that's available on Tabletop Simulator. In fact, if you want to try the game, you could totally do so if you own Tabletop Simulator on Steam. There'll be a link for you in the below description. Alright, so as far as components are concerned, let's talk a little bit about these green-backed cards. These are company cards. Each player is going to get one at the beginning of the game, and they do a number of things. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see some symbols. There's a green, 2 purple, 3 red on this particular card. Those are a player's starting resources. So before the game begins, players will get these resources. In the middle, you'll see a descriptor. This is a special ability that each company has, so be on the lookout for that. And then lastly, on the very bottom is a victory point condition that player will be trying to fulfill in order to score so many points at the end of the game. If you look on the bottom of this card, there are 3 gray-backed cards saying glint system. So this particular player would want 3 planets of the glint system in their tableau when the game ends. And if they manage to do that, they get 4 points. And again, each company is different with regards to their starting resources, their special ability, and what victory point condition they will be shooting for. In the middle, we've got these blue-backed cards with a little house on it. These are a player's starting planet. Each player will receive one of these as well at random. And you'll see there's some information on this as well. This one, for example, has 3 hammers on it toward the bottom. This is how many build slots, how many developments you can put on this planet before the planet is full. That's the main crux of this game, is you're going to be getting planets, and then you're going to be seeding those planets with developments. Your starter planet can have 3 developments on it. On the very bottom is a large colored symbol. That is the majority bonus. This is what the player will be trying to build in their tableau. They'll be trying to build cards in their tableau with that particular symbol on it. They're trying to produce red resources. At least this particular player wants to do so. If they happen to be the player with the most red production at the end of the game, then they get 3 points. Similar here, if this player produces the most of this brown wheat resource at the end of the game, they will get 3 points as well. On the upper right-hand corner are these brown-backed hammer cards. These are called Omniforge cards. Each player is going to get one of these at the beginning of the game as well. And they depict 2 different things. On the very bottom, you can see there's a blue shaded area with some symbols inside of it. In this case, there's a green symbol and a yellow symbol. These are resources. Anytime you see a blue shaded box like this in the background, that represents production. This particular Omniforge development card will be producing a green and yellow energy credit every round. There's also a number on the bottom right-hand corner, which my head is in the way. There it is. It's the number 6. And at the beginning of the game, this will determine player order, and then whoever has the highest number, they will start, and then play will proceed clockwise from that player. As far as the rest of the components are concerned, I'll try and blow through this as quickly as possible. On the very, very top, there's a bunch of resources here. The yellow are energy credits. This is like money. And then you've got these skull tokens. This is like illicit good. These are things that typically aren't worth a whole lot and clutter up your resource storage area, but they can be used in certain situations if you've got a special ability or some kind of card that allows you to use them. As far as these other 5, there's blue, green, brown, purple, and red. You'll be earning and spending these resources throughout the game to get various cards and partnerships and other things. There is a first player token over here, and that will be sort of rotated around the board from round to round. Lastly, there's this helper token up here, and some events will use this helper token to help you track things. In the upper left-hand corner of the main board are bank loan cards. Now, these bank loan cards, players can, as a free action, get 5 energy credits right then and there. However, there's a catch. It might help them pay for cards in the immediate term, but if you don't pay this bank loan back at the end of the game, or by the end of the game, you lose 5 victory points. So you want to pay that back, because if you don't, you lose points. In addition to that, for every round that you don't pay off this bank loan and pay it back, you will owe interest to the bank. So you actually have to pay an energy credit. On the very bottom, you'll see a minus yellow energy credit there. So every round that you don't pay this bank loan back, you lose an energy credit. And if you don't pay it back at the end of the game or by the end of the game, you lose 5 victory points. So it's a risk-reward kind of card. Below that is the event deck. And the event deck is something that will be drawn on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds that will sort of change the rules a bit. They break the general gameplay flow. It might allow special things to happen. It might affect all players once and that's it. You don't know. There's a whole deck of these cards. In fact, throughout the campaign, the developer allowed us to submit our own ideas for event cards, and I think 2 of mine actually made it into the promo deck for the Kickstarter campaign edition. So thank you so much for that, by the way. Below that, there is a global victory point goal that players will be trying to go after. This is not a competition. It's just you look at this at the end of the game and you see where you stand on this little mini chart and see how many points you get. There are 3 of these tokens and they are double-sided. So there are 6 possible victory point conditions that players will be shooting for, but only 1 will be active for that particular game. On the very top is the Galactic Market. This is where the in-game economy will be tracked. As I mentioned earlier, there are 5 main resources: blue, green, brown, purple, and red. And throughout the game, their value will change depending on how saturated the market is or how not it is for a particular resource. And you can actually see the exchange rates here. This is 1 energy credit is equal to 4 of that particular resource. So if this were over here like so, then 1 energy credit is worth 4 of those resources. And players will be able to buy and sell throughout the game. So if this particular marker was here and a player needed blue resources in order to buy a card, well, they're in luck, because 1 of their yellow energy credits will get them 4 of those particular resources, which is great. Now, anytime you buy from the market, these markers will go to the right. And anytime you sell to the market, these tokens, these trackers will go to the left. So you can see on the bottom, buy right, sell left. So you'll be buying and selling from this market throughout the game in order to, possibly buy low, sell high. However, it may come to a situation where you really need a green resource and it's super expensive right now. So now you're trying to figure out, how do I sell this resource to get an energy credit so that I can spend that over here? It's just, you're going to be manipulating this market to the best of your ability to get what you need. Then you've got the purchase area. There are 4 different rows from which you can purchase from. The very top row are planets. So players will be able to buy planets from this particular row. And as I kind of indicated earlier, planets are like the first step. Players will be buying these planets, adding them to their tableau, and then they're going to be seeding development cards, which are the second row, third row, and fourth row under these planet cards here. So buy a planet first, put it in your tableau, and then seed these developments underneath it with the intention of producing resources and, if you're lucky, generating victory points for endgame scoring. So this is an example of a planet, and in the upper left-hand corner of a planet card is a little symbol. Typically it's red. That's the cost. So you need to pay a red resource in order to purchase this card from the purchase row. On the upper right is the name of the card and a symbol, and that symbol may come into play depending on what kind of starter company you get. As an example, I took another starting company, which you've seen already. This particular starting company on the very bottom wants red planets, okay? And if you manage to get 3 red planets in your tableau, by the end of the game, you score 4 points, right? Well, this is a red planet. This is a red planet. So this is super important. Players are trying to pay attention to their company card and then buy planets that that particular company wants. And that symbol, that little wave symbol there in the upper right, there's another company that wants planets with that particular symbol on it. On the very bottom of the planet card, you'll see some hammers. That's the cap, the build cap. So you can have that many developments slotted underneath that particular planet. And then below that is a victory point condition for that particular planet. This particular planet wants developments with red symbols on it. In this case, here's an example. On the very bottom of this development is that same red symbol. That is a particular company. So this planet wants 3 of that particular company underneath that planet. And you'll note there's 3 symbols and there's 3 hammers. So every single card that you slot under here should be a red company card in order to get that 4 victory points. You don't have to. You can slot anything you want on this planet. But if you want those 4 victory points, you're going to want to slot cards like this underneath that planet in order to get those 4 victory points. Another quick example, let's take a quick look at this particular planet. On the very bottom of this planet, it wants a brown resource, a purple resource, and a green resource to be produced there for 4 victory points. So I want to slot developments that might look like this. On the very bottom of this card, that produces a brown resource. This one produces a green resource. So if I were to have this particular planet, I'd want to slot something like this under it, something like this under it, and lastly, if I can find it, a card that also produces a purple resource. If I manage to slot 3 cards underneath this planet, and it produces all the developments under it produce all 3 of those resources depicted, I will earn 4 points at the end of the game. As for the other 3 purchase rows, kind of like in Splendor, there are 3 tiers. There's Tier 1, which has the 1 dot over here, Tier 2, which is the 2 dots, and Tier 3, which is the 3 dots. And the 3 dot ones are really hard to build. If you look on the upper left, that is the build cost for that particular card, but typically they score you a lot of points. If you look on the bottom right, each of these will score you 5 points if you manage to add them to a particular planet. Again, you're seeding these developments underneath a planet. So I will let you look at these at your own leisure. The cost of the card is in the upper left, and what they produce is on the very bottom. There are some special case cards. Some cards do not have that blue production box on the very bottom. And I pulled them off to the side. There's a couple of examples here. Some cards will have a purple box in the background. This represents the ability to smuggle, to buy and sell things unique and outside of the galactic market. So in this case, I can sell an illicit good or I can buy an illicit good for one of these energy tokens. And I don't have to consult the galactic market. I don't have to move the galactic market tokens left and right. I can make these transactions on their own. Okay, so anything with a purple box is just like a special trade ability that you have. Now, you can also use the purple boxes of other players, but you have to pay them an energy credit as sort of a compensation for using that particular ability. Now, these development cards also can just generate victory points. Like here's an example of this one actually gives you -1 victory points for building it. So that is a thing. This one here just gives you 3 victory points for building it. It doesn't produce anything. It just gives you 3 victory points. Some cards, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, have a when built, this happens kind of thing. This is saying for every planet that you have in your tableau of that particular symbol type, like that snowflake, you will get a blue resource from the bank. And that's, again, a one-off thing. As soon as you build this, you observe that when built effect, and then that's it. You don't see it for the rest of the game. There's also this communications array card. At the end of the game, for every communications array you have, you will possibly score more points. So in this case, you take a look on the very bottom, there's a little chart there. So if I had 1 communications array in my tableau at the end of the game, I score 1 point. If I had 4 in my array, I score 9 points. That is not per communications array. That is just, you look at all of your communications array and you get a point value. And the point value is listed once on the very bottom of these cards. Last but not least, when it comes to components, you've got partnership cards. That's these 6 over here to the left. They come in 6 different colors. You've got silver, blue, red, pink, green, and yellow. And they kind of match the symbols that you see on the bottom left-hand corner of these developments that you'll be seeding onto your planets. These partnership cards cost 4 of these purple resources in order to acquire them. And they don't do anything for you immediately. However, at the end of the game, they will score you points based on how many of that particular symbol you have. So in this case, if I had 2 cards in my tableau with that blue symbol on it, I would score 1 victory point. If I had 5 different development cards with that blue company symbol logo on it, I would score 7 victory points. So one of the strategies throughout the game is, oh look, I'm acquiring a bunch of these red ones, or I'm acquiring a bunch of these pink ones. I should probably buy this so that I can complement my victory points at the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, the board will be set up as appropriate. Just take a look at the rulebook if you want to see the particulars of setup. But just to quickly overview it, each player is going to get a company. They're going to get a starting planet. And they're going to get an Omniforge card. This Omniforge card will be slotted underneath the starter planet like so, and because this is technically a development, this Omniforge card, that means the starter planet will have 2 more possible development slots that you can slot under this planet. Again, the number of hammers on the bottom right will tell the player how many developments they can put on that planet. The Omniforge does count as one of those developments at the beginning of the game. So the starter planet here could have 2 more developments added to it before the player is forced to buy another planet so that they can buy more developments. Now, when it comes to majority scoring, which I kind of hinted at earlier, on the very bottom, this particular planet wants purple. It wants the player to produce a lot of a purple resource. If this player is successful in producing the most purple resource at the end of the game, then they score 3 points. However, the Omniforge card, which a player randomly starts with, does not count toward that particular total, because it wouldn't be fair. This player is lucky enough to start with a purple resource that they're generating already, whereas another player may not be so lucky in their random setup. So the Omniforge card is not counted toward that majority bonus at the end of the game. The game itself is played over 4 rounds, and there are 5 parts to a round. There's the event phase of a round, and this event phase is skipped for for the first round. That simply involves drawing an event card, which you'll see in a little bit. Then you move on to producing resources. Every player will produce resources based off of the blue production boxes that they've got in front of them in their tableau. And then you move on to player turns. Each player will be able to take 3 actions every player turn, and each player will be able to take 3 player turns in a round for a total of 9 possible actions every round. And then you've got this discard step, which is if you've got too many resources, you have to discard down, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit. And lastly, you'll rotate that first player marker over to the next player. All right, so as I indicated, there are 4 rounds to the game. And again, you're going to track that via this tracker here. There are 4 different sections to it. This here is round 1. This is round 2, round 3, and round 4. And you'll note there are like 3 different parts, which I'll get to in a little bit. These help track player turns. But the first part to a round is the event phase. And again, you're going to skip that for the very first round. So let's just go ahead and assume that it is round 2 so we can see some of these cards. So I'm going to put this marker over here on this exclamation point. And that's what these exclamation points represent. These are reminders that you draw an event card for rounds 2, 3, and 4, whereas this start section does not have that, so you skip the event phase for round 1. So here's a quick look at some of these cards. You're going to draw one and do what it says. Again, these cards will typically be a one-off that you do right away, and that's it. Sometimes it's just an effect that players will have to observe throughout the entire round until the next card comes up, and so on. So yeah, there's a lot of them here. I'm not going to get into what each one does. State of Flux. Now, the tabletop simulator version, there are promo cards in here, and State of Flux is one of the ones I created for the promo cards. So you may not see some of these cards in your hard copy, whereas you'll see all of them in the tabletop simulator version. So anyway, for the first part of round 2, 3, and 4, you're going to draw one of these event cards and resolve it. The second part of the round is the production phase. Here, players will earn resources based off of the blue production boxes they have on their developments in their tableau. So as an example, let's just assume I had not spent any of my starting resources that this card gave me at the beginning of the game. So in the beginning of the game, I would have earned 3 red, 2 yellow energy credits, and a illicit good token, which is what these are over here. But because this is round 2, I get more resources during this phase. So I will take a look at all of the blue boxes on the bottom of these development cards and draw so many from the bank as appropriate. In this case, I am due a purple and a red from this one, a green from this one, and a purple from this one, which I've already done over here to the right. So I would add these resources over here with my other resources that I've carried over from the previous round. It's okay to go over your limit during a round, but as you'll see in a little bit, you have to discard down toward the end of a round if you have too many. The third phase to a round are player turns. These are actions players can take to get cards, amongst other things. And the way this plays out is, starting with the starting player for that round, that player gets 3 actions, and then the next player clockwise gets 3 actions, and then the next player clockwise gets 3 actions, until it's the start player's turn again. Then you move the round tracker up 1 to the number 2. And then you start the whole process over again. The starting player gets 3 actions, then the player clockwise gets 3 actions, then the next player clockwise gets 3 actions until the starting player gets to go again. Then you move on to the number 3 here. The starting player gets 3 actions, the player clockwise gets 3 actions, or the player clockwise gets 3 actions until it's the starting player's turn again, in which case that will end this particular phase of a round. So each player will get a total of 9 actions each round. So what are the different things that players can do on their turn? Well, we'll come back to that. As you can see, there's quite a bit. So rather, we'll move on to phase 4 of a particular round, which is discarding down to 7 tokens if you've got too many. In this case, let's just assume I hadn't spent any of the resources that I had this round. I would have to discard down to 7 tokens, but I cannot discard illicit good tokens, which are these skull tokens here. Again, they clutter up your hand. If you have some kind of a special ability, though, you might be able to get around that. So in this case, I've got way too many tokens. Let's just say I get rid of that one, and that one. This gives me 7 tokens for the next round. And whenever you discard tokens during this particular phase, you have to move the respective tracker on the galactic market. So we've got green, purple, and red. And whenever that happens, you're going to move them to the left, one each. So I discarded a green, I discarded a purple, and I discarded a red in that fashion. So I'm saturating the market with more of that resource. It's the same as if I were selling those resources back to the market. I'm saturating the market with these resources, so their value will decrease. Last but not least, the fifth part of a phase, or the fifth phase of a round, is just pass the first player marker clockwise to the next player. It's as simple as that. Swinging back to player actions, there's a nice handy-dandy reference card here. We'll talk about reserve first because it just makes sense. For one action out of the 3 that you have for that particular turn, you'll be able to reserve 1 card from any of these purchase rows. However, you cannot reserve the cards with this little diamond symbol on the bottom left-hand corner there. Those are really powerful cards and you cannot reserve them. You can have a total of 1 reserved card in your hand at a time, unless you've got some kind of special ability that will break that. So as one action, or for one action, you can reserve one of these cards. No one else can use them. You'll be able to purchase that card at a later date. Speaking of purchasing, that's another action you can do. You can purchase 1 card from a full row or reserve. Why does it say full row? Because if I were to purchase a card from here during my turn, and then on the same turn, I would not be able to then purchase one of these 2 cards because this is no longer a full row. You cannot purchase twice from the same row on the same turn. These will refill at the end of your turn, but during the same turn, you cannot purchase from the same row. I could not purchase this card here and then this card as well, unfortunately. So as a purchase action, you can purchase from a full row, or you can purchase the card that is currently in your reserve. Another action you can do is trading. You can trade up to 2 resources via the galactic market and then move their trade markers afterwards. So I kind of set up a quick example here as to what that might look like. I'm going to zoom out just slightly. On the left-hand side, let's just say are the resources currently in my tableau. Again, this is just example. So I can make 2 trades on this particular chart here. So let's take a look. I see that brown is super cheap right now. I could spend 1 energy credit to get 3 brown. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take 3 from the bank. 1, 2, 3. And because I bought brown, it makes its value go up slightly. So you're going to move the marker to the right, and then you're going to flip this over to the X side. This indicates that you cannot make that trade from that row again on this particular turn. So I can't trade twice on the same resource. Now I have to pick for my second trade a different resource. I might look at this and go, well, I might need some purple in the future, or maybe I've got a blue I don't need anything with. So here's what I'm going to do. You know, it's not a great value, but I think I'm going to go ahead. I don't need blue at all. So I'm going to go ahead and sell these 2 and get 1 out of it. And because I sold, its value will decrease even more in this particular direction. Typically, you want to buy low and sell high if you can help it. But in some situations, you might really need a particular resource and have no choice but to, well, maybe take out a bank loan in order to get that resource that you need. Another action you can take involves your Omniforge card. Each player got an Omniforge card at the beginning of the game, and they can, if they want to, produce from their Omniforge card. In this case, it's a purple and a red, so a player can, in this case, take a red and a purple from the bank and add it to their resource pool. Another action you can take is the smuggle action, and you can smuggle up to 2 cards of your choosing. Now, unlike trading on the market, where you have to trade 2 different resource types, here you can smuggle using the same card twice. You can pick 2 different cards to smuggle with. It's up to you. You can even use another player's smuggle actions if you want to, but you have to pay them 1 energy credit out of your own pocket in order to make use of that ability. And again, you can identify these cards via their purple background. This one has a purple box on the very bottom. This one does as well. And they've even got those 3 little purple boxes in the upper right-hand corner next to the card name. Another thing you can do is refresh any full row. And I have to stress full row. So in this example, I could spend an action to take these cards off to the side temporarily and flip them like so. And ideally, what I do is I just put these back on the bottom of the deck. In Tabletop Simulator, you can just flip this over, drag these over like this, and flip the deck back around again. So as an action, you can refresh an entire full row. However, if you had purchased a card during that turn, from this row, for example, you would not be able to refresh this row because it is not a full row. Lastly, and I should stress, this is not an action, you can do this for free at any time on your turn, is the loan ability thing. So, again, not an action. You can, if you want to, take out a bank loan. You'll get this card, but you'll also get 5 energy credits to go along with it. Now, if you don't pay this back by the end of the game, you lose 5 points. If you don't pay this back every round, you have to pay an energy credit and interest. So, for example, let's say I'd taken this bank loan out. I got these 5 energy credits over here. Let's say it's now the production phase in round 3, and I still have this card. I have to pay an energy credit out of my resources in order to account for that. And then I would be able to produce the rest of my cards as normal. Once a player is done taking their 3 actions for their turn, they will flip over any of the galactic market markers that have been flipped over to their X side. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, indicating that the player had moved them during their turn. And again, it is possible that you'll see more than 2 moved if the player takes the trade action twice on their turn. They'll also refill any cards that are empty on the purchase area. So in this case, we'll just draw another one from here and throw it out there. And that, for the most part, is it. Players will play over the course of 4 rounds, and whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game will win. Now, I set up a mock tableau, and I hope that I've kind of covered every possible way a player might be able to score, but you know, sometimes I miss things. So this is an example tableau, and one of the first things you'll do is you'll take a look at the goal that everyone has access to. How many planets do you have in your tableau? In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets. I scored 1 point. And again, I just like to use Tabletop Simulator. I like to write the point values next to each category, just so I can easily track things, or use a calculator, whatever. And then I've got a partnership over here to the left that I've purchased earlier in the game, and I take a look and see how many green developments I have. I have 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there for a total of 3. And over here on this little chart, it says 2 victory points. So I'm going to put a little 2 underneath there. And then I take a look at my company card, and I take a look, okay, did I get 3 planets with sun symbols on them? Well, it just so happens the glint system in the upper right has a little sun symbol. This Belvida planet has a little sun symbol on it. And then the Ducat planet here, the Ducat system, has a little planet symbol on it. So I did match that goal, so I would get 4 points for my company card. And then I take a look at my starter planet, and in particular, on the very bottom, my production goal. Did I produce more purple than everybody else at the table? And let's just assume for the moment, yeah, I totally did. I produced 1 purple here from the Omniforge card. Does not count. Does not count. I caught myself. This one is 1. This one is 2. And let's just say through some fluke of miracle that I was the only one that produced 2 purple resources. Everyone else produced 1 or less. I would get 3 points for that. Now, I'm going to put a little 3 here, but you'll note that underneath is a development that also scores me victory points. So I'm going to put another, say, 3 there, and maybe a little plus symbol, just to remind myself that it's not a 33, but a 3. And then on the next card, did I meet this planet's goal? Do I have development cards under it that are producing a green and a purple resource? This one's producing green. This one's producing purple. Yes, I satisfied that particular planet's goal, so I get 3 points added there. And then moving on to the next card, do I have developments under this card that are of these 3 companies? I've got a green one, I've got a gray one, but I do not have a pink one, so I would not earn 4 points for this. I have 2 greens, but no pink, so I missed out on that. Now, there is a communications array card under here. I need to look and see how many communications arrays do I have across all of my planets. I only have the 1, so I only score 1 victory point. So I'm just going to put a little 1 under like that. And then moving on to the next card, did I manage to get developments under this card that generate 3 energy production? In this case, I've got 2 from this card and 1 from this card. So yes, I got 4 from that. This card alone just is 5 victory points. That's 9 in total. And then here is -1, just because the card says so on the bottom right. So in all, I've produced 8 victory points out of all of that. And then over here to the right, you've got this over here. Did I get a red company, a gray company, and a green company under here? The answer is no. I didn't finish the planet. I guess I ran out of time, whatever excuse you want to come up with. But I did get a card under here that just gives me 3 points. So I still get 3 points for that particular card. And again, you're going to take all of those points, add them up, and you're going to get a final score, and you're going to compare that score with everyone else. And again, on the left-hand side of my screen, there's a complete list of all the different ways you can score victory points. Check out the rulebook if you get a chance, and you'll kind of see better examples of what I'm showing you here. But yeah, you're going to take all of these points, add them up, and whoever has the most points will win. And there you have it, a quick and dirty look at Star Tycoon and how to play it. Keep in mind, this was not a complete, comprehensive rules how to play video, but this will definitely get you started, or at least 80 to 85% of the way there. Again, check out the game on Tabletop Simulator so you can practice and play the game for free, so as long as you own Tabletop Simulator on Steam. So there you go. I'm really looking forward to my Kickstarter copy. And again, those Kickstarter copies, for those of you that backed it, should be arriving in the US starting late April. So yeah, I'm excited. This is Vince. Thanks for watching. Catch y'all next time. Take care.